Hello. I want to play a game. What's going on, guys? coverkillernation here. Time to do another album review for another 2011 release, and this is for This Is Where It Ends by the band All Shall Perish, which will be released in late July, just a couple of weeks away. This is a very anticipated release ever since 2008's Awaken the Dreamers wowed a lot of audiences of the deathcore and metalcore and just general metal scene to begin with. In all forms and fashions, it was the #1 album on the heatseekers chart whenever it was released and sold over 5,000 copies its first week. Definitely one of the moments that I remember the most from that record is, of course, requesting Black Gold Rain by this band for Jumble Junkie Music. His review of that was classic, and also just the sheer presence of the 3 Inches of Blood vocalist providing some fantastic falsetto vocals on that track just really characterized that song and made it really stand out for me as a whole. Now, of course, since then, All Shall Perish has been busy touring, not to mention also working on the new record, and for a time period also had the employment of Jason Richardson from our friends over at Born of Osiris. Now, unfortunately, he was not on this record. He was only with the band for a period of about a year, and then subsequently left for BOO. Now, this is an album, should I say, that is, well, coming off of a lot of high press for the previous record, Awaken the Dreamers, so a lot of expectation is there for All Shall Perish to really come back with a really fantastic record. And this is one where I think that old adage that whenever you get all that pressure on you, sometimes you can feel a little bit overbeared, there's a little bit too much stress, a little bit too much pressure, a little bit too much of the expectations that sometimes you just don't flow naturally, that you really have to get into a dynamic rhythm in order for you to really put out a record. So they took some time, took about 3 years in order to get this release out, and now we have it to listen to. And the very first thing that I'm going to say before I get full-fledged into the review is that this is going to be a review that we've encountered a very strange paradox in this regard. This is something where the band typically talks about topics such as politics and injustice and the like, and very rarely do they really seem to go with the patterns or the speech of like love or anything like that, but it's something that does come up on this record. But secondly, also, this paradox that I'm speaking about is that I think this record suffers a little bit from being a little bit too lengthy. This is an album that's about 56, 57 minutes in length, so you're talking about close to an hour, whereas the previous records were not quite as long. So there's a lot of material being packed in there. Now, I really regret to say that because the riffs on this album are definitely All Shall Perish total quality, something that you have expected now for the past couple of records and has been delivered. But at this point, it's getting a little bit samey, it's getting a little bit on the redundant side, and it's almost becoming expected. And expectation is something that whenever you're trying to raise the bar a little bit, you almost have to think outside of your collective box a little bit. And that's something that's difficult to do in both the metalcore and deathcore genres, considering that really means that you have to make a real progressive leap. And in doing so, sometimes there's that fear of alienation of some of your fan base. However, I think that a little bit of experimentation definitely would have helped out, and there was some droves of that on this particular record. And now we're going to get into the paradox. The paradox is that I just said that this album is too long. However, the album really shines and exceeds expectations and really does raise that bar on the tracks that are the lengthiest. There's a track that is 6 minutes long and another one that's 7 minutes and 33 seconds long in length, and these are two of the stronger songs on the album. Consequently, both of these seem to be touching base on the topic of love or relationships or something along those lines. There's a lot of reference to love in these tracks, but both of these songs really seem like they were very carefully crafted. There was a framework in mind in which they stuck to beautifully, not to mention all of the thoughts are extremely coherent, they're extremely melodic, and they have just very, very nice, subtle features to them. I really love the 6 minute long track, and I could listen to that track over and over again, right smack dab in the middle of the record, almost like a perfect midway point for this album. Really keeps you interested for the second half. However, I just feel that overall, there's a lot of songs on here that don't really impress me all that much. They don't really just strike me as something that I'm going to be repeating over and over again whenever I pop this album on. I think I'm going to be going to my go-to songs, the ones that I enjoyed, and that's going to be about it. You know, I really enjoy records where I'm able to listen to it from start to finish without any sort of hesitation, without the real desire to skip around or do anything like that. And I feel that this is going to be a record where I'm going to be doing too much in the way of skipping around. So in a way, I'm a little bit disappointed with this album. However, it's not enough to really count as a disappointment of the mammoth proportions that we've seen in the month of June with albums such as Morbid Angel and Queensryche and the like, everything like that. It's nothing compared to something like that, or a Cold Lake by Celtic Frost, where everyone just deems that album unlistenable. It's not a Saint Anger. It's nothing like that. This is just an album where it seems as though the weight of heightened expectation and the like gave the band an unnecessary responsibility to attempt to force out an instant classic that's on par, and not on par, but rather exceeds the previous records, and I don't think this quite happened. I think that maybe it was just a little bit too much in the way of stress, that they didn't really flow quite as well. Overall, I'd say this record's about a 7 to a 7.25 out of 10. Not really a very... It's not that this album is completely and totally weak. It's just one of those records where I feel that I'm going to be doing way too much skipping around. I can't get into the flow of this album as a whole. Instead, I'm really just going to fast forward to those moments that captured my attention, kept my attention, and also engaged my attention. Coverkillernation saying that sometimes a little bit of stress, a little bit of pressure, and, you know, those expectations that people force you to meet sometimes cause you just to break down. But don't fear. I'm sure that these guys will rebound. I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks a lot.